If you've had a long service employee who leaves their employer, they may be eligible for a retirement allowance. What is a retirement allowance? It creates extra RRSP room. It creates extra RRSP room. So if your employer gives you a retiring allowance, typically it would be severance pay. So if you have a long service employer that gets severance pay, that typically would qualify as a retiring allowance or a retirement allowance. And there is a special formula. It creates extra limit for you. And what happens is that severance package that you get qualifies as income. You put it into an RSP, that's a deduction which offsets the income. So you are deferring the tax in the retirement allowance. This can be particularly important if an employee gets a large severance package late in the year. So it could be that an employee has already worked till October and now they get a year's severance. And that's going to kick them up into a higher tax bracket. So if they're eligible for retirement allowance, it could be very helpful. So what are the rules? $2,000 per year prior to 96. So $2,000, that's supposed to be an apostrophe there, prior to the year 96 that you worked for this employer. Plus, and you do double count, you will double count $1,500 per year that you worked for that employer prior to 89 that you were not part of a pension or that you were not pensionable. And so if in 88 you were working for the employer and you were not pensionable, you do double count. You count both the 2,000 and the 1,500. The number that we get when we do this calculation is the amount of your retirement allowance that you can roll over to your RSP. The remainder is taxable. So make sure if you see a question like this, what's the question asking you? Is the question asking you for what portion is taxable or what portion you can roll over? So this does not use your regular RSP limit. This creates a new limit and it is use it or lose it. So you can use it one time only for that retirement allowance, which is typically a severance package. Where I used to work, we had a large military clientele. They all get severance when they retire if they've done 20 or 25 years. And this was a number of years ago, so it was closer to the time period. So I did deal with a number of these. But I did just see one a couple of years ago as well. I talked to somebody who had been recently laid off and they had a severance and they had worked for their employer for a long period of time. So let's consider a question. We have an individual who has started with their employer in 85, joined the pension in 87. He was laid off recently and received a severance package of $50,000. How much is taxable? How much is taxable? So this is important. How much is taxable? The math is going to tell us how much we can roll over. So let's take a look. So we started in 85. First, let's count the $2,000. So you count its calendar years. So you would count 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. So that is 11 years. It's not 10 years. You might be, hey, 85 to 95, that sounds like 10 years, but we're counting both 85 and 95. We're not counting 96 because it's prior to 96. So now let's count the $1,500, the years prior to 89 that he was not in the pension. He started in 85 and 86 he was not in the pension. By 87 he was. So this would be, this one here would be years 85 to 95. This would be the years 85 and 86. So this is 2 years. Okay, so now by coincidence, it's the same number, but this is not your answer. This is how much I can contribute. This is how much I can roll over. I then have to go, if I got 50,000 and I can roll over 25,000, 25,000 is taxable. So this is my contribution and this is taxable. This isn't tax, this is taxable.